Today, we have the pleasure of having Noah Weinman of Runner with us as we discuss his recently released incredible record, Always Repeating. Noah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast to talk with us about the new record.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Noah, as we start, mainly because Andrew and I are hard to talk to, which is great because we're interviewers, we like to kind of break the ice. We Googled some quick icebreakers, and hopefully you're the one sharing, so hopefully we'll like you better. But the idea is for you to like us better and not be like, these guys are asking these really intense, terrible questions. So they're this or that, a few quick fires. All right.
All right.
So I'm specifically talking about toast. And I'm going to add a third option right now. I'm improvising. Okay. So jelly or butter, or I know I'm going to add or like X, because I know there's so many different other spreads. So what's your toast spread?
Well, I feel like jelly over butter, but fish over anything else.
Oh, shoot.
Which I used to think was kind of a weird toast option, because like I usually do it with like anchovies or sardines, but that's not too far away from like lox or anything like that. So probably fish. I don't eat dairy, so butter's an easy one to just
cut it out.
I'm glad you added the X there, Nate. Otherwise, it would have just been jelly, and we wouldn't have gotten this whole fish conversation.
I've got to try the fish. What, if you don't mind asking, like, what type of fish?
I just like getting like a tin of like sardines or anchovies, and just doing it like that, with maybe like some greens and some hot sauce.
Yeah.
Ooh, fancy toast guy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's gonna be our post-interview snack. I just have to run to the store quick. But
some fancy toast.
Yeah.
It's not that fancy. Like the tin is the same as a jar of jelly in a lot of places.
Yeah.
It just feels weird.
Yeah.
At first.
Yeah.
It's elevated.
Yeah.
It is. All right. So you're at a movie theater. Would you rather sneak in candy or buy it there?
Definitely sneak in candy. But I wasn't really a candy person. I used to do this a lot as a kid. There was like a burrito place that I liked across from the movie theater. So I used to get the burrito and put it in my backpack.
Yeah.
And like, they're not going to check like a 14-year-old's backpack at a movie theater.
Yeah.
So yeah, burrito in the backpack.
My wife and I definitely got some Moe's burritos and took them in the theater once. And we didn't realize how packed the movie was going to be. It was sold out. And so we're in like the back row, and luckily we were in the corner, but like movie starts and we're just like unwrinkling this like aluminum foil. And the lady next to us, who were like, dude, she's like, we're totally busted.
She's
going to over it and she's like, that smells great. Where'd you guys get that? And she's like making conversation about the burrito like during the movie. So, so I think we were fine, but I think everyone in that theater knew what burritos we got. So.
Was it like eating a burrito in a movie theater can be hard if the burrito architecture isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty decent.
Okay.
I can't remember. Honestly, my memory is more this lady than the burrito architecture, but that's a great question. You're a better interviewer than I am, Noah.
So I just remember like my burrito, it wasn't the best burrito that I would get. Like I would hold off on getting like the salsa I really wanted, just because if it was any wetter, it'd be a disaster in the movie theater.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Baseball parks or national parks?
National parks. Yeah. I was in Yosemite a couple weeks ago. And one of my best friends growing up is now a park ranger in Tahoe, and we went to go see him, and that was really cool. That's not a national park, but it's a park.
Yeah. All right. Ocean or mountains?
Probably mountains. I like the ocean. Like I grew up in LA. I like being in water that's a little bit too cold and like kind of being thrown around the waves. I don't surf or anything like that, but I think I prefer hiking to like any of those activities.
You just body surf. All right, sorry. Spring or fall?
Fall. I prefer to be too cold than too warm, and
that's why you're living in LA.
Yeah, it sucks. Like when I was in Ohio, when I was in like New York for a lot of the pandemic last year, and I used to live in Rhode Island, like all my favorite clothes are like coats and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just dress way worse in LA.
All right, this is a little bit deeper.
All right.
Honesty or others' feelings?
Ooh. It really depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think that like in general, if I'm being selfish, I care more about others' feelings because that's like kind of the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
But for relationships that matter, I really try to lean into the honesty.
Yeah. That's why I tell Andrew he's an asshole.
And it hurts my feelings. So
I'm being the asshole. All right. Reading or writing? Sorry, this is only if you're literate, which I'm assuming is the case.
Yeah, semi, mostly. I definitely write more than I read, I think. But like I write in my journal every day as just like exercise, but I feel like reading is the more pleasurable activity.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
I guess I would say reading.
Recording or playing live?
Ooh. I think that playing live was like always how I used to love music.
Yeah.
And recording was always how I used to hate music. Like it was so frustrating for me.
Yeah.
And I think that like, the thrill of playing a great show is like a really nice peak, but then like sometimes you go home and you kind of like get down on yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like when you've like made a great recording, especially when I haven't shown it to anybody else and I just get to keep it, like that lasts for a long time.
Yeah.
So one's like the quick up and then the come down, and then the other one's kind of like the more sustained.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Side A, you don't need to share this. This is a little bit, and we'll also do one thing similar to this at the end, but side A or side B?
Just in general?
No. Your record.
My record. You mean, I guess you haven't seen it. There is no side A and side B.
Because it's short enough?
No. It's side triple tilde and side triple slash.
Oh, okay. So side triple tilde or side triple slash. Sorry, it's a tongue twister.
Yeah. Probably side triple tilde, because that's like, I guess technically that's side A of that record. Those are the older songs, the ones that I'm like re-recording now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, they're the first Runner songs essentially. Yeah. So they're always going to be special. And like a couple of songs are even older than Runner as a project. So you kind of just can't beat that.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. So for this final one, just quick backstory. We mentioned this pre-interview, but Nate is from near Boston. I'm from near Philly. And so we're just going to ask Boston or Philly.
Boston.
There you go.
Sorry.
Hey, that's fine. I had a good early run, but Nate's coming back here recently.
Noah. We went like 12 or 13 interviews to start. All Philly.
Philly.
Yeah.
Everyone.
I really haven't spent nearly as much time in Philly.
You're blessed. I'm just kidding. Philly's great.
And I guess like if I ate cheese, then I could like actually have a cheesesteak and feel like I could enjoy that.
Yeah.
But instead I just go for the seafood.
There you go.
Yeah,
yeah, on toast, baby. Let's go.
All right.
Andrew's up.
No, that's fine. So before we dive deep into the record specifically, we wanted to ask some more general questions about your overall approach with music. So most of your songs are both bare and really dense at the same time. The moments of simplicity driven by one or two instruments that bloom into lush, almost orchestral booming instrumentals. You use a ton of different instruments and production elements as well. You're also a super talented lyricist. So how does the average runner song grow from an idea or that first note to a fully formed track?
I think that, there's a way that I like for the songs to go, or if I feel like, I'm really like inspired on all levels and I have to be like methodical in getting this idea out. And that usually starts with the title of the song.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I write so many things title first because I feel like I'm always writing. Like there's always like a couplet that comes into like my journal or something. And like I always have like chords and like different melodies that I'm throwing around. But like that all feels like pre-writing and nothing really helps. Like the first thing where I feel like a song itself is starting to take shape is when I get a title. And then I'll be like, oh, like that's a good title. And then like these lyrics kind of fit within that theme, and then I'll kind of just like run with that because I want to like have the theme of the song kind of set up, and then I can like plug in the different emotions. So it usually starts like that: guitar, vocals, like come after like some initial lyrics and some title, and then they get kind of dense is a good word for it, like in the recording process, because I'll just track guitar and vocals and then I'll just like build the song around that. And for a while it was easier for me to put in too much, and like I've really had to work to try to pare down some of my musical ideas, especially because I'm not the best mix engineer, but I'm also like really particular about my mixes. So I want to do them myself.
Yeah.
So if I have like too many things and I can't mix it well, then I need to start taking out instruments until I can get it to a place that sounds good.
Yeah.
Andrew, sorry.
Yeah.
Were you going to keep going?
I think that was it.
Andrew, I'm going to butt in and ask a question, because one thing you said, Noah, that really intrigued me is like, with you sharing about the journaling earlier, and then like certain like couplets coming out, and your lyrics are a lot of the times very like confessional, very like they seem like they could come out of a journal. How much do you look to your journaling time, if you don't mind sharing? Because I know journaling times can be personal and stuff. Well, so is writing songs and sharing.
Yeah.
But how much of that journaling time do you kind of head into it hoping a song will come out of it, or inspiration for a song or certain lyrics, or how much of it is just like a personal exercise? And how do you like navigate that relationship for like trying to be honest with the journal while still like maybe trying to like come up with songs? Like I can imagine that could be a very difficult line to walk.
Yeah, I think that like when I really made like a concerted effort to start journaling every day, it was with the intent of trying to like pull lyrics out of it. But then that started not to feel as good. It's hard when you like live this kind of lifestyle where you're just like commodifying every aspect of your personal life. So I lean away from that sometimes, and like if I just want to like write about like what I did that day and have it not be like profound or structured like that, I'll let that happen. I think that it can be helpful in terms of just like getting in touch with emotional language. Like I'll just like say something or write something out and be like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I'll like think about that later, and maybe it'll like become a lyric. And if I don't have that much to write, like I do one page in my notebook. I have one here. It's like kind of a small stenographer's pad.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
And like I'll just write like one page. And if I don't feel like I have enough that I like did or want to talk about to fill that page, then I'll write like some like heavily structured poetry, like haiku or cinquain, or like something that forces me to like meet a finite line count, just so it like comes more quickly and I don't like fret about what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much it really translates directly. I guess I'm talking myself in circles.
No,
Yeah.
it's just very interesting because like journaling on one hand is meant to be this like personal, helpful thing, and yet your music career, obviously that's personal, helpful too, but you're trying to like achieve things, and those two can kind of be out of balance at times, and yet your journal would have some of your most honest words which you'd want to have in a, and so anyways, I just thought that relationship so interesting.
I think that there is definitely a lot of that. I think like it's I think more about just like getting in touch with like specific language, because I tend not to write about like a specific event as much. I like my songs are all kind of like pieced together memories that aren't exactly like maybe the most literal thing to my life. But journaling definitely plays into that, because I'll be like, oh, like that's like some small anecdote, but then like it won't be the song itself, it'll just be a bit of like another song.
That's sick. Oh, sorry, it's my I thought I was interrupting Andrew by asking my question, and I was up next anyways. So I think a lot of our fascination, moving on to Always Repeating, is centered on how it was constructed conceptually. The record is a combination of two releases. Your One of One EP, which was released last year in 2020. Thank God it's over. Though thank God this EP came out. And then your debut record, Awash. Essentially, you picked 5 songs off of Awash, re-recorded them, and then combined those 5 with all 5 from One of One. So what inspired that approach for you to make this record?
I think that it was a little bit of like pragmatism. In that first record, like Awash, really felt like a thing that I needed to make at the time, but I also don't know if I was ready to make it at the time. Like I liked the songs that I wrote for that album, but it was also the album that I was teaching myself how to produce on. Like I mixed that on like a single like crappy PA speaker in my garage.
Wow.
And I didn't know anything about recording, or like I just knew that I wanted to do it. So they turned out as good as I could have imagined at the time, but then like after making the Fan On EP and then the One of One EP, I started to look back at those recordings and be like, I really like those songs and I just wish I had done them better. So it was nice then when I started talking to Run for Cover, like thinking about like something to come out sooner so that then I could like work on like a proper debut album. And I just really like was happy to have the opportunity to revisit some of those songs. It was hard to like, it's a 10-track album and I just picked 5. And I don't know if that means that like I'm leaving behind the other 5 forever. But I really wanted that opportunity just to like do them better, and that we were also looking for a way for me to have like a more immediate release before. So it just worked out nicely that way.
I think with the like wondering if the songs are dead, I don't know, and music especially, especially like the indie scene, like you don't know how certain artists or people are connected, but they are. And so I know you're somewhat connected with Pinegrove, at least some type of like, there's this knowledge of they follow you, or I don't know. But Evan, do you follow Pinegrove's career at all?
I do.
Evan will, and the band will kind of reuse songs from like way back on newer records that don't really have much. And I just different bands. I don't know. You never know whether those songs will be dead or not.
Yeah. I think that that's a good example. And yeah, there are other bands, and I think like that do that take old material and redo it. Yeah. So I might find a place to sprinkle it in. What's also hard is that like these songs, like they just feel like from such another time.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to imagine myself going back to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's more what I'm worried about, but it is good to know that like if I am like coming up short on an album or something and I've got these extra songs.
Yeah,
that's true.
But if you listen to that album, there's some weird songs that you would be like, oh, this sounds really different from like what it sounds like now.
Yeah.
So with Awash, and you kind of mentioned this, but you also kind of mentioned about like a proper debut. I don't know how you're viewing Always Repeating, but I was wondering for you, and maybe it's no, with Awash, first off, it's not on the internet really. I'm sure it's somewhere on the internet.
It's on Bandcamp.
All right, it's on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
But it's not on Spotify or like any of those other streaming platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Do you kind of view Always Repeating almost as like a second debut for you, where you're like kind of starting new again, or like how do you kind of view this record in light of that, especially with it not really being as accessible and you're reusing songs?
Yeah. I think of it as a kind of debut, you know, it's like my label debut.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't know. I think that like the title is kind of a nod to the fact that it is a compilation.
Yeah.
And that these are like songs that I'm like, you know, these songs are just what live in my bag. Like I just carry them around everywhere. So like it doesn't feel new to me. And like sometimes I forget that like this whole album thing is happening, because I'm kind of like into writing like whatever this next record's going to be that are songs that are maybe more immediate. Yeah. But then what I found in going back to these songs was that like they still felt really relevant to me, and they caught me at this interesting, you know, kind of cycle in my life of I'd first written all the Awash songs like when I left college, and I just felt like really far from everyone. And then there were like a lot of similarities between that and, you know, probably most people's experiences during the pandemic of just feeling really far from everyone. Yeah. And I think like Runner as a project really came out of that place of attempting to reconnect with a kind of world that I felt estranged from through music. Yeah. And I do think that there's something really cyclical about that, like that I reach out and I find myself in the world and I'm in it, and then like I pull myself away for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But as far as debut goes, I don't know. The first album kind of felt like a debut, but then it felt like I had too much to say for no one listening.
Yeah.
So this will be interesting because I imagine most people who hear this record will probably not have, they wouldn't have heard Awash when it was on streaming and stuff.
Yeah. So how did you go about picking the 5 songs you wanted from Awash? And did you go back and forth in making those decisions?
Not necessarily. I think that like there were a couple that I knew I was going to do. I knew I was going to do Monochrome. I knew I was going to do Awash. I knew I was going to do Trundlebed. I knew I was going to do Urgent Care. Because those to me are like, those are the songs that I still play live all the time. They still feel really relevant to me lyrically. And I had concrete ideas for how I wanted to do it better than the first time I did it.
Yeah.
Body Surfing was one that I really was unsure about. It was like the first Runner song that I recorded, and kind of like my first aha moment of like, oh, I could use a drum machine and like that'll work, because I don't play drums, but I can play like everything else. And I didn't really know what to do with it in 2020, because pretty much every song I've released after that album includes acoustic guitar, banjo, stuff like that. That original recording was like only electric guitars and like a lot of like weird like MIDI synth that I was using. But then I was just like, what if I did try it with banjo and acoustic guitar? And then I put some electric guitar in it, and it ended up turning out pretty nicely. Like, I'm happy with how it turned out. So that made 5, and then I attempted a 6th, and it was just the outro from a different song. It was a song called Clay So Caked from Awash. And I thought the song itself was whatever, but it had this outro that I really liked that was like kind of mathy. And I felt like maybe this album was like missing that like mathy element.
Too much science, dude.
But it just didn't work out. I couldn't make it the way I wanted, and it also like kind of disrupted the like even 5/5-ness of the record, so I let it be.
So sorry, let me ask this again. Was there ever a thought to mix up the track listing, or was it always your intention to keep the songs separate?
I think it was my intention to keep the songs separate because they were made pretty differently. I talked about mixing before. I didn't mix one of one. And I think it sounds great. Like, I know I was saying that like I get really picky about mixing, but I think my friend Derek, who mixed it, did a really good job. But I did want to mix these 5 also because it was like the pandemic, and it just seemed like so much more trouble than it was worth to try to like go back and forth if I couldn't actually be in the room with the person. So I just really wanted to like lean into myself through these songs, and in doing that, I kind of like, they kind of had to be separate at that point, because it might sound funny to go from one to the other. And I felt like the track listing from 101 was how I wanted those songs to flow. So then I played around with the different track listing for the Awash re-records a little bit, but only within that 5-song frame.
That makes sense.
I think what's really impressive about that is I just assumed, to be honest, that whatever you did with One of One is the exact same thing you did with the Awash songs. And so just for like I was like, oh, for cohesiveness sake, I'm sure that was the approach. But especially for you, like leaving those songs behind in a certain sense, partially due to your like production skills at that time, it's like kind of poetic, like your growth personally, not even though there's the same songs, it's your growth as a producer kind of, and as a mixer, which is really cool. So as we're talking about, you seem like a big production guy. How fun was it to go back and do the Awash tracks, and what were the difficulties of the re-recordings?
That's a good question. It was very fun, I think, because I get really excited about recording songs when I've written them, and I sometimes find myself making the recording too early, and like I'll get like married to a certain version of it. And I won't be as open to like little changes that maybe come along the way. But these Awash songs were, I'd been playing them live for 4 years,
Yeah.
And like I knew what they were more. So it was nice in that like it felt more like I was just like I just had to focus on the production side, like the writing had already happened.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the time like I tend to do the two at the same time.
Yeah.
But then, there's a lot of difficulty within that. Things that I had, kind of grown fond of in the original recording, however, messy it may have been, like certain ideas that I liked that I did ultimately have to leave behind because it wasn't really serving the new recording that I was making. So there were some decisions that were made that were not made easily.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So lyrically, you deal a lot with nostalgia and reminiscing, kind of both the good and bad of the past. Does that aspect of your lyrics play at all into titling the record Always Repeating? Kind of like there's this habit of returning to the past, which causes you to feel like you're never truly moving forward or moving on?
Yeah, definitely. I think that something that I used to talk about in like therapy a lot was like trying to stay present, because I think that I will abilide my current situation by like either projecting into the past or like into the future. But and I think those both kind of play into the songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that in writing, I definitely am interested a lot in memory.
Yeah.
And like what we remember, because it's so much of the time involuntary. Like we've kind of subconsciously assigned meaning to certain moments, and I think that I'm always curious about like what makes those moments, and that's what I'm trying to get at in these songs.
Yeah.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
before we move on. Are you good on time? I know we projected like a half an hour, and with Andrew's thing.
I'm chilling. My day was
Hi.
open. I was supposed to have a piano tuner come today, and he came for 5 minutes and he looked at this piano and he was like, "This piano is 100 years old and I can't tune it."
Oh shoot.
And I got it for free, like just from some random dude. And I was like, "All right, I guess this piano is 100 years old."
That's crazy.
There has to be some. I mean, I don't know. There has to be some old geezer in LA who's seen a piano like that before.
Well, no, it's like he was explaining it to me, like, vintage other instruments are worth something. Vintage pianos are not, because he said a piano like this has like 3,600 pounds of force happening at all times.
Yeah.
So if you were to try to like tune it, this like beam that's holding all the strings that already has a crack in it would just like completely break.
Wow.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. The piano's not that out of tune though, so I think it'll be
ask.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you tracked with that piano at all?
Yeah, I have. And like I was mostly, this is like beside the point, I'm very technical, but it doesn't have like one of those dampers on it. You see how, like other pianos, and I love the way that sounds. So I was mostly, this guy was a piano technician who was like mostly coming just to see if the piano could be fit with something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm sorry, because pianos are so tough to move too. Like, I hope you're not on the 5th floor or anything either.
No, I'm in a back house, and I got a sweet deal on a piano mover.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who then recommended the piano tuner? Like, I'm just in the piano world.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So the album cover, Transitioning, is such a beautiful collage of these two distinct tree images, and then I'm assuming you're in the middle.
Yeah, that's me.
Right. The face was covered, didn't want to assume, and you're drinking something out of a mug. But what was the inspiration for the artwork, and how did it kind of come into being?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the photos in that album cover are 2 photos of trees that I took. I bought my first camera last year, just like a really simple point and shoot. And I've just been having a lot of fun, like going and taking pictures. And the thing that I find that I'm like the most interested in a photographic sense is the way like sunlight looks through trees. So I have so many photos of trees. And then I wanted to do like something that felt really like homemade and like kind of like I had sketched it out. So I initially made this album cover that was like a couple photos thrown on like a wooden desk. And I sent it to the label, and they were kind of like, this is okay. They were really nice about it, but they're like, there's some ideas here that like we think could be elevated. And I get it. Like, I'm not a graphic designer. I just like, and they want to sell a record to someone who's gonna just like show up at the store and be like, oh, what's this cover?
Yeah.
So they paired me up with this graphic designer, this guy Russell, and I was kind of hesitant because it's hard for me to collaborate sometimes. But I also know that like this is really out of my wheelhouse, and like this is gonna be a real thing that like people are gonna spend money on. So I can't just like be like, oh, la-di-da, like I drew a flower and so I sent Russell some pictures that I had taken, and then this other picture that my friend Nick had taken, and that's me in my kitchen when I lived in Providence, which felt important because that's where I was living at the time that Awash came out. And then we like went back and forth with some different ideas, and I really got into that like collage idea that he had been making. And then we were also going back and forth about like my own comfort with putting my face on the cover, because like I like performing and I like being an artist and like a lot of the stuff that like comes with that. But then I also have a hard time like doing the face thing that I think. Yeah. No, it's fine like this when I'm talking to people. Like because that's the thing. It's like I'm not necessarily a super shy person. I just don't always love having like my picture on everything. But then I also want that like sense of intimacy that comes when you buy a record and you feel like you really know the person, or when you listen to a record. Not trying to make it sound like it's all about the bucks here. So like I just like, it wasn't even like that much of a conversation. I just kind of like, I write these like really long rambling emails to everybody on my team sometimes, and I'm assuming that Russell saw that and took that to note, but honestly could have been a coincidence. But I just thought the way that he like covered my face like that felt like a really nice embodiment of like what I was trying to say. Like I want to be there and I want to like have that connection with the listener, but then I'm also like not trying to just like have my face on everything.
So basically what you're saying is in the upcoming like shows and everything, you're going to start wearing a mask.
I could do the Sia thing.
Exactly. You're like the pandemic showed me that masks are awesome.
Yeah, masks are awesome. Indie rock MF Doom.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
So you recently signed to Run for Cover, which is one of our favorite record labels. So we were really stoked to see that pairing when you re-released Awash as a single and made the album announcement. So how did your relationship with Run for Cover come about?
I guess through like a couple different ways. Personally, my relationship with the label came from like being a fan. I like their catalog.
Yeah.
I really like Field Medic, and
we saw the covers really cool
thanks.
of house keys.
Yeah, that was fun. Making that weird video in the bowling alley parking lot.
Hey, you looked like you were having fun.
Yeah, I was having fun. It was a good time. And I was stoked when they signed like another Michael.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite records of the year for sure.
Yeah, and Mini Trees, I think is amazing. And like Lexi and I have played shows together here in LA, and
That's
it's
sick.
cool that like we get to be on the same label now.
Yeah. Quick announcement: we have an episode with Lexi and Mini Trees. Go listen to it on her latest EP, please. Yeah, it's not all about the clicks or it's just we want to share her music.
Little plug, there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Smooth.
Yeah, but then I guess on like a technical level, my booking agent books like other bands on Run for Cover, like Field Medic and another Michael, and then I started working with a new manager over the summer, and he was like, it seems like a lot of bands you like or like that you want to play with are like on this label Run for Cover. Like I might just like hit them up. It's like, okay, like I doubt that that's gonna turn into anything. And then like, sometime in September, it was like, all right, here's a deal. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. So you do have both an early fall UK tour and an early winter US tour booked. If you had to describe your anticipation of tour in one word, what would it be?
Sorry, one worders are tough.
One words are tough. There's no word for what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I guess like
just share what you're thinking then.
Okay, I'm gonna say I want to do one word. I want to play the game correctly.
Play the game.
All right,
yeah,
I want to say.
Don't want to break the rules.
I want to say dreamlike, but in like a very kind of grounded sense. In the like, it doesn't feel real, and not even in like a sparkly way. Like, oh my god, it doesn't feel real. Like, I on some level, I have not really fathomed the fact that I will be on the road and playing shows again.
Yeah.
And like, there's part of me that wonders if it's just like not going to happen at the last minute.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then there's part of me that's also really excited. So like, I think that, the more cliche dreamlike meaning also stands.
Yeah.
So we usually don't ask questions like this when a record's released. But it's hard not to technically when there's no new songs on this record. So you must be working on new stuff.
Yes.
Right. And not to get ahead of things, people listen to this record, be thankful for the music artists make. They are not vessels of your desires that are able to please. Their purpose isn't to please you. However, that being said, we are selfish beings often. If you don't mind sharing, are you working on new stuff, and what type of, again, this you can totally say skip, what type of direction do you feel like these new songs are moving in, potentially comparably to other stuff you've written?
Yeah, I'm definitely working on new stuff. I'm looking at my bulletin board over here, that if I can do this without fucking it up, like I keep like,
ooh,
yeah,
nice.
So
solving crimes and writing songs.
That's just like, I have like a thing for each track that I'm thinking about for this record.
Yeah.
And then like some songs are like definitely in that slot, and then other ones I have like maybe these 4 songs could all fit into that. And I guess this new record, it's definitely familiar territory. I think did you guys listen to the Microphones in 2020?
No.
that one 42-minute song album. It was my favorite music thing that came out last year.
We gotta go listen to it.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, seriously.
That must suck for streams.
It's not even on Spotify.
Okay.
Yeah. You watch it on YouTube. There's a video that goes with it. It really made me cry.
Okay.
But there's one part in it where he sings like, I don't remember the exact line, but it's essentially like, I've been writing the same song for my entire life. And I really identified with that because I do think that like so much of the music I write is about like trying to connect and wondering why I can't when I want to. And I think that these songs definitely live in that same kind of nostalgic territory, but maybe merge it more into things that are more recent in my life. And just about like more honing in on like my relationships and the way that I communicate seems to be kind of the theme of this record. And there'll be the last part to the Sublet trilogy. So Sublet and then new Sublet, and then on this record there's going to be another Sublet.
Nice. Now, like another Sublet, or are you waiting? Are you trying to figure out what that word is?
No, it's going to be another.
Okay.
Nice.
Another Michael should do a cover.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, before we go, and again, thank you so much. We quickly like to share our favorite track. Now, Noah, feel free not to share if you don't want to hurt any of the other tracks' feelings.
Okay.
But Andrew and I will go first to give you time to think over what your favorite track is, or if you even want to answer. So, Andrew, what's your favorite track?
Yeah. It's interesting because there's not technically new tracks, so you could pick something just based on the sound differences. But for me, I hadn't actually ever listened to Awash. So for me, there were 5 new songs on this, and I really like Monochrome. I also feel like where it fits in the track listing is great because it kind of introduces newer, older, I guess the revisited sound to it, and I think it works great on the record. So I feel like the placement of just kind of right away you're pulled in, and I love what you did with that song. So still not actually having the context of Awash, which now knowing it's on Bandcamp I can go listen to the original and compare, but I think that's a great track, so I'm gonna pick Monochrome. Nate, how about you?
Yeah, so for me, I actually found you through my friend Kevin, and Kevin was like, hey, you got to listen to this EP. It was 101. And I really like fell in love with your style from the jump with Heliotrope and love the EP. But for me, it transcended a little bit to like another level when I heard Your Name on a Grain of Rice. I think that song for me is just so powerful, not just, I mean, definitely instrumentally, but also lyrically. And it's a type of song where you're like, and I mean, again, I really liked all the other songs and I've grown to like them even more, but it was that song where you're like, oh shit, like this is special and this artist is special. So it kind of like spurred my fandom for you, which gives it a special place too in that sense. So yeah.
That's cool. I'm glad that you guys connected with it. I'll answer that question. I think for me, it's also Monochrome. I think that was like the first song that I wrote that was gonna be a Runner song. So it has like a very special place to me.
Yeah.
And like anyone that's seen us live, like we always closed with it.
That's cool.
Because it was just like I didn't really like have anything else I felt like I didn't have anything else to say after that one. And it feels like the starting point for the rest of the project. And that's not to say that like I love all the songs and they all like fit in, but if I have to choose one, it's like the one that kind of feels like it started it all.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used to sell shirts. I think they're going to come back. They don't even say Runner. They just say talking shit about our friends and eating chicken. And like when I was a waiter and like playing little gigs, like it was cool to like be able to sell a couple of those shirts, even if people didn't like the music. Like at a certain point, people just wanted the shirt.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's all about the money, baby.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think that song just, it's not even the oldest song. Like Trundlebed, Urgent Care, I wrote before, but they didn't feel like they had like a place to be until I wrote Monochrome, and then I was like, oh, like these are these more like vulnerable songs that I want to keep exploring.
Yeah. Well, again, Noah, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the time and your generosity and sharing so much cool information about yourself and the record. We wish you the best of luck. People, you can buy tickets for the shows, buy tickets, buy merch, get the vinyl. I forget what the sides were called, but both sides are good.
I don't even think you can say them. It's just like the triple tilde is supposed to be a wash, and then the slashes are like one of one, like 1/1.
Oh shit.
Because I was gonna call it that, and then Bon Iver put out the I, record, and I was like, shit, like guess I gotta think of something else now.
That conniving, stealing son of a bitch.
Yeah, he hacked my computer.
Yeah, Justin Vernon, you
write
prick.
something original, Bon Iver.
Yeah, stop mooching off everybody. Stop mooching off Taylor Swift, Bon Iver. Oh, you care about some money, Bon Iver? Come on. I'm just kidding. Bon Iver's awesome.
Yeah, please, we'd love to interview you.
S. Carey, come on the show. Come on, S. Carey. Noah, sorry. It's like, bye. All right, let me keep talking. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. You know, his speaking voice wasn't actually that boring. So, surprise.
I'm
just
surprised.